What is the deal with Jason Robertson and the Dallas Stars? Because this whole situation has been actually crazy, because it's really, really interesting, because it's a team and a player where usually there's a big conflict here, right? Well, the player wants one thing, the team wants another thing. They want to have long-term, low contract. The player, especially at this point, probably wants shorter term, but a huge contract, or a long contract with a big term. But there's usually a fallout. Maybe the things aren't all working out, but we got a team that's a championship-worthy team and a player who seems determined to be on this team, and they cannot make the connection and make a deal. Jason Robertson, a.k.a. Robo, he had 96 points this season, 45 goals. He's been unbelievable. And in recent years, I would say he looked a little bit out of shape not out of shape, this way, but this way, I guess, when it came to playoff performance. But this last playoff run, which was only in the first round, he had 6 points, 5 goals against the Minnesota Wild. The Stars looked good, and it was led by him. And I think the previous years, I think it was last year, he was hurt coming into the playoffs, and he never really found his footing, and then he finally kind of did, but it was when the Stars were eliminated, and I think something similar happened the year before. He's a little bit injured in the playoffs and banged up, so he wasn't able to get there, but I think he's blossomed into who he is. He's a goal scorer, an extremely skilled winger, and he showed up in the playoffs this year, and also, a lot of guys seem to really like him, so there's so much benefits to Jason Robertson. He's coming off a 4-year contract at $775, and he's filed for arbitration, right? So right now, the current circumstances when it comes to Jason Robertson is he's going to arbitration, and if that happens and it gets to that point, which between now and then the Stars and him can figure out a contract, and that could happen. But because he's 1 year away from becoming a unrestricted free agent, his contract will be a 1-year contract no matter what, at whatever value the arbitrator determines. So, it's very interesting, because at this point, the Stars have tried to figure out a solution by shipping him out of town. Of course, the huge reports, I think it was like 2 weeks ago at this point, was from the Seattle Kraken. He refused a $15 million a year. I think it was $120 million in total contract. Insane. And I really wonder what the trade would have been there. But it had to be said no to, because Robertson decided, I don't want to be in Seattle. Apparently something similar happened to the Blues. I don't know what the dollar figure would have been, but he also nixed a contract there as well. So we have a player determined to be on the Stars, and the Stars would be stupid to try not to keep him, and I think they're more than happy to try to keep him on this team. But they can't figure it out, because they currently have 9.7 and a bunch of numbers after that. Let's just round up to $9.79 million in cap space for this current moment, which is a lot. And they could have done something with that with this free agency period, but they couldn't, because they got to figure out what to do with Jason Robertson. If they can't figure something out, they're going to have to figure out a way to trade him out and make sure they can bring someone good back in return to keep them as a good, solid, amazing, offensively front-ended team. But right now, $9.79 million, right? Apparently, he seems to be asking for about $14 million, $15 million. The Stars, I think, originally came at him with 12, and he said no to that. And I don't think wouldn't be willing to accept 14, 15 million, because especially with guys like Leo Carlsson now, and with him being a 45 goal scorer, and what Cutter Gauthier, who's only a 40 goal scorer with the Ducks, I wonder what the hell Jason Robertson could easily get up to $17, $18 million himself, especially with the cap extremely exploding. So I'm sure at something like 14, 15 would be a blessing for the Stars. The issue, of course, they don't have that money. And if you look at the team, Jim Nill, who's getting a lot of criticism for his current handlings, and that this is where the team's at right now with Jason Robertson, he's getting under fire, but I don't think Nill should be getting a ton of hate. I think he's done a great job, because he really has no contract that can be gotten rid of. A lot of teams, you look at the team and you're like, Like with the Ducks, you're like, yeah, Killorn, Vetrano, Kreider. You see some dead weight contracts they're good players, they're serviceable, they can be in the lineup, but they're definitely overpaid, and you could figure out a way to get them out of town and get kind of the same services for less. But there isn't really any bad contracts on this team, and the only one that everyone's bringing up, of course, is Tyler Seguin. This is his last year going in to his contract at $9.85 million. Huge contract for Tyler Seguin, but he's got a no-move clause, and also he's been extremely injured. And also, when he's not injured, he is a really useful player, right? And the Stars are a team that is kind of dangling on the edge of not having a lot of good depth. And with Tyler Seguin in the lineup, that gives them 3 solid lines. If Sagan's out of the lineup, Jamie Benn's only getting older, and if a guy like Robertson can fall out of the lineup from a trade or something, this team really starts to get shallower and shallower when it comes to offense. So figuring out a way to get rid of Tyler Seguin's contract is kind of the only way, because you can't start chipping away at guys like Matt Duchene, who's got $4 million. That would give him kind of enough space to only sign Robertson, but then there's your center depth gone. Maybe you can't get rid of guys like Sam Steele plus another guy, because then that's all your depth gone. So really the only option is kind of getting rid of a guy who's very in and out of the lineup like Tyler Seguin, which is a hurtful blow, but it's better. But then if you get rid of Seguin, you have $18 million. You sign Robertson for 14. You still have a little bit of chunk of change that you could figure out a guy like Patrick Laine as a depth guy to add some powerful scoring. At least it's a risk that you can take. There's still free agents out there that you can bring onto the team, so I don't think that would be the worst case scenario. The issue is figuring out a way to get rid of Tyler Seguin, and if Seguin would want to leave in the final year of his deal. So that's definitely a scenario, because here's the good news. Kind of with the Anaheim Ducks, where they're in hell right now, the hell is happening, and it's going to end this offseason. Because Jim Neal's done a really good job of locking his guys up at good deals. Because next season they have $41 million in cap space, and the only money that's going to really be subtracted out of that is Robertson. Because they have no guys who are ending next year. I mean, they have a couple like Liam Bichel, but he's only going to be taking $1 million, maybe $2 million off of that. So they got a lot of space next season that they can play with the cap rising and Sagan's contract coming off the books. Subtract whatever the hell Robertson makes, you're still going to have a pretty good, like $20 million at least, to play with next season, and they're going to be able to retool. So the main deal this season is that probably keeping Robertson, somehow finding the money somewhere, and then, I mean, maybe you get rid of a guy you can't, it's hard to get rid of those depth guys to keep just one forward. But I mean, Robertson's absolutely pivotal. So another thing I've been seeing guys floating out there is, of course, him getting traded. The Ottawa Senators are absolutely hot to get him on their team, and I think that would work really well. I think he's a great replacement for Tkachuk. I think he brings what Tkachuk couldn't bring. Tkachuk brought the attitude of a loser, and a rat, I guess. But Robertson brings an attitude of a team that loves to play, loves to win, has a lot of experience, and is starting to really flourish. And he would be a really good piece to add to that top line with Stützle and that amazing core up there. But I don't know what Ottawa sends back, right? I really don't know what. I mean, is it like a guy like Drake Batherson? Like, I don't think the Sens are going to just. The Stars aren't just going to accept nothing, right? This isn't them just getting rid of Robertson to make things work, right? They're going to have to get something in return. The Senators, all their pretty valuable pieces are already on the team and are roster players, so you're going to be subtracting someone to get someone. Maybe a deal where the Stars do need defensemen. Maybe you get a guy like Shabbat, I guess, like Shabbat and like some decent forward. I don't know who that would be. And then maybe like a first round pick. Maybe that's a deal, something like that works, I guess, but like at the same time that also hurts the Senators, but that's what a good trade does. I don't know. The San Jose Sharks is something I think about because Jason Robertson is from California, so he's going home. They have a ton of cap space, so they can make it work. And the Sharks have a lot of talent that they can trade away, and they could figure out something there. I think they could definitely overpay in young, talented players and accept that. I think Robertson. Smith right-handed, Robertson left-handed, Macklin centerman, crazy stuff. Ivar Stenberg is the second-line guy with Misa, crazy stuff there. Like, that adds up really well, but at the same time, do the Stars want futures, or do they want nows? It feels like they want nows. So that's also another issue. One of the big talks has been the Penguins. They, of course, landed Jason's brother, Nick, this offseason. That would be really fun to see and would be really good to keep the Penguins in shape and keep playing. But I don't know how much Jason Robertson would want to play in Pittsburgh. I get he's with his brother, but I don't think Pittsburgh's really going to be good. They might be good this season as they keep trying to play out and keep Crosby's career alive, but at some point, Crosby's going to hit a cliff. He's going to fall off the edge, and Robertson and an old Carlson and Kindle are not going to be able to keep this team alive. So I don't think Robertson would accept the trade there. And then Blackhawks are a team I think should do anything in the world. But now that Bedard's hurt for the next 4 months and he's already not even signed to a contract, I don't think no one would want to sign in Chicago, so I feel like there's no way that happens either. And at the end of the day, Robertson seems to be loyal to the Dallas Stars, and I don't think he wants to go anywhere. So I think the real solution to all this is somehow a conglomeration. Maybe Jim Nill decides to go the route of you get Tyler Seguin to go off the books. You trade him, and I don't know what. I mean, obviously they've been very. I mean, he's been definitely active, right? Of course, Werenski was gonna head there, but he said no. Obviously, the two trades that could have sent Robertson out of town already, so he's definitely been actively trying to make things work. But it's very interesting to see where this is actually going to end up, because I honestly have no idea. It feels like at the end of the day, Robertson will stay a star. I just wonder who is no longer a star. Is it going to be a combination of like Casey DeSmith, Sam Steele, and maybe Robertson calms down for just one? Also, one thing I'd like to add is that he's 1 year from free agency and 1 year away from the cap opening up for the Dallas Stars. Maybe they figure out a way to have Robertson sign for 1 year, which then is risky because he wants to stay on this team, and maybe after all this drama and scrutiny and annoying ways of keeping a guy on the team that wants to stay here, maybe he decides to walk next offseason. But maybe there's a scenario where you figure out a way to keep him signed. You make some kind of conglomeration to come up with like $13 million. You get him to sign for that. He comes down just a little bit, and then for 1 year, and then he signs for even bigger next season, which is what probably happens in arbitration. They're going to go to arbitration. The Stars will probably come at him with like 11.5. Robertson's camp's probably going to say 15, and then they'll meet in the middle at like 13, 12 and a half, something like that, and then the Stars will have to figure out a couple $1 million in cap space. I don't know how they do it. And no matter what, I think they definitely take a step back this season, but they're going to jump forward next season because they're going to have a ton of cap space to add some kind of depth on defense and make up whatever offense they shore up with the moves that happen now. So I think the Stars are in good shape for the long-term success. Current success, they're definitely taking a step back. They're not going to be in the same great position they were in this season, but I still think in the Central they're a playoff team. I don't think there's a team that could really rise up enough to knock them out of the playoffs, especially with how bad the Pacific is. They're at least a wild card team with how many studs and stars are on this team. So the Stars don't have to worry. I think the real thing is they're not winning the Cup this year. Whatever happens, they're not going to be able to buy big at the deadline and make some major overpowering moves. They're going to have to kind of just settle down, hunker down, step back a little bit this season so then they can rise like Batman next season. So that is all I've got to say. Thank you for watching this. Make sure you subscribe to keep up to date on all the stuff that's going on in the NHL and my coverage of it. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and ta-ta for now.